With over 500,000 trees and shrubs already planted and growing, it's easy to forget you are in the city. We don't just say, we do. It's the Stained City way.
Good evening and welcome to Real Talk on SABC 3. The stage is yours. Do you believe that some people are cut out for marriage while others are not? If so, which group do you fall into? Later on in the show, we're joined by author of Are You Married or Buried? Martin Manamela, to find out what's the difference between marriages that make it and those that don't. He believes people get divorced because their marriages started out for the wrong reasons. Did your marriage start out for the right reason? Find out later, but before that, it is another Real Talk relationship installment, and we, of course, cannot do it without our relationship coach, Kofi Ofori-Boateng. He's joined by writer, columnist, and author of the Dot Spot, Adventures of Sex and Love, Dorothy Black. We'll be looking at the perks and drawbacks of the singles lifestyle. Welcome, Dot.
Hi.
Finally, I get to see you.
Yes, thank you for the invitation.
I've always heard you on radio, and now here you are.
All the opinions all the time.
Those opinions are exactly what we want. Kofi, welcome back.
Good to be back.
Off the bat, do you feel like when people are single, everyone, including the single person, treats it as a state of transition, like, I'm not going to be here for long, I'm on my way into a relationship? Or are there people who treat it as, this is my life, and yes, if something may happen, but I mean, this is me for now?
Increasingly, the latter's starting to become the norm, where people are starting to see it as a permanent state of being. And, you know, like, if a relationship comes along, great, but by and large, I think people are very comfortable with being single right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you there?
I think people still make the distinction. I think there's still this terrible distinction between, like, I am single and then one day I will have wedded bliss. It's like this sort of stationary holding pattern until the one day. I think it's greatly important that we move through to that stage where we are kind of single in ourselves and happy in where we are, and then the relationships that move in and move out, it's okay, because there will be other relationships that move in and move out. It's not an on-off, you know, thing.
What does one need to be doing in order to be comfortable with being single, where we're not treating it as a bus stop? I'm just waiting for the next bus to come, because guys, there's no fun in a bus stop. So you can't be living your life as a bus stop.
Well, I think if you stop seeing it as a holding pattern for one day when you have a relationship, and start seeing it as the time that you learn how to be in relationships, where you practice with people, you go on dates, you find out what your boundaries are, you find out what you want from people in small interactions, small dates, small relationships. That's the time that you learn. That's what you use it for. And then maybe some of those relationships, you know, are more long-term, or you move on. But it's not you use that to find out about yourself. You learn how you are in relationship with yourself in the time that you are so-called single.
Now, Kofi, this is very ideal, right? It's an amazing ideology. But much like, you know, when people say, get to know yourself, how do I get to know myself?
Well, I always say start by loving yourself. So
how do I love myself?
Go to a therapist. Go to therapy.
Get to know yourself. I mean, you know, so I think people think loving yourself means, you know, like this. There's this checklist you need to work through, but it's kind of like exploring. Get to know what you like Dot was saying. Get to know what you like. Get to know who you feel comfortable around, but then also expose yourself to situations and people that bring you out. I think a lot of the time we take our cues from outside, externally, and we let what people's thoughts or ideas or perceptions of relationships are influence us, but we hardly take the time to find out what a relationship would mean for me. What would love look like for me? What would commitment look like for me? So once you start exploring that and digging deep within to find that out about yourself, I think on the right track to learning how to love yourself.
There's a really great phrase called follow your bliss, which comes, there are a few people are using it now, but we need to learn how to also trust what feels good.
Yes.
So not just go, well,
What I heard is good and what feels good.
What feels good.
Are two different things.
This guy that I'm seeing or this woman that I'm seeing, they check all the boxes, but it doesn't feel good, and it's okay to leave the situation.
Yeah.
Is this the kind of relationship I want? Is this the kind of sex I want? Is this the kind of interaction I want? What is feeling good? And that is how, I say, if you want to learn how to love yourself, go see a therapist. We need to unpack that. What's stopping you from loving yourself, and then trusting your gut, trusting your urge to please yourself.
You said go to therapy. Now, I love that. I absolutely love that. I tell everyone as well. I was just go to therapy. Why is going to therapy important? Especially because we're in the notion that going to therapy means there's something wrong, right?
Yeah, I know.
So even if you don't feel like there's anything wrong, should we be going to therapy so that we become better single people?
I think there are better people, not just better single people, better people in relationship with ourselves, better people in relationship with others, at work, in love. And I think therapy, and there are different ways to get to know yourself. There are tons. You could learn, you could find out about yourself through dance, through art, through sport, through therapy is one of them.
Through dance.
Right? Well, listen, but the thing with therapy is that if you have a good therapist, it will force you to unpack stuff that you might try to either project onto other people, which is what happens in relationships a lot, or that you might try to deny and try to block and push down. All of that stuff is going to come up in the unhealthy relationships that you might find yourself in. So a therapist, a good one, is just there to facilitate your learning, your finding yourself, you being in yourself, and will give you the tools ultimately to express,
identify
what bliss is for you, and also to identify who you are in the noise of what everybody else is.
Speaking of noise, Kofi, let's talk about situationships, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Are they a disaster?
Look, I'm trying to move away from the whole good, bad, disaster, bliss, like heavenly kind of language.
Yeah.
The reality is that every choice has consequences. So if you choose to engage or to be a part of a situationship, there are certain consequences that come with that.
Yeah.
My question to you would be, are you ready for those consequences? More often than not, people go into situationships not really prepared for the consequences. They have a set of expectations that they haven't communicated. Maybe they had a physical attraction to this person, but they weren't necessarily prepared for any emotional fallout of that physical interaction. So, it's a situationship because it wasn't well thought out. It was ill-conceived for many people. But for those who know what they're doing and know what they're getting themselves into, hey, it might just be a good thing. But just as long as both parties are clear on exactly what it is and, what the terms of engagement are.
Dorothy, you once wrote about the downsides to being single, right?
Oh, yeah,
There's the FOMO, there's the brides, there's couples, people are dishing up for their men, there's, if you have a bride with your girls, who's starting the fire?
Girls can do that.
Yeah, exactly, right? But then, I want to know, do you believe that there are downsides to being in a relationship?
Absolutely. It's not an either or. There are downsides to every state of being, depending on whether you're happy being in it or not. So, the reason I wrote that column was because there's a lot of kind of swing towards being single is just this power play and it's amazing. And it is, but just like being in a relationship, there is a this, but. And so
But wait, why can you identify the downsides of being single, but you're not identifying
you can identify, absolutely. Identifying being in a bad relationship. You're as lonely, you're as isolated, you're as misunderstood in any sort of situation that you might feel if you're a single at a, all-coupled wedding party. So the downsides are very similar because you will feel the same loneliness and the same distance and the same unsupportedness, the same, you're maybe in confrontation with the person, now you're fighting all the time. So it's really individual, depends on what relationship you're in, but the negative consequences to what the downsides are of being in a bad relationship is almost quite similar to being single and lonely and unhappy, as opposed to just being in a particular way and happy with yourself and happy with the setup.
Okay.
Is that right? Did I answer
yeah,
that?
No, you on my page, So then why is it that, Kofi, coupled up people are constantly trying to hook up single people?
Yeah.
You laugh. Are people constantly trying to hook you up, Kofi?
Well, I'm not single, so.
Oh, okay, so, okay.
So maybe I never told him.
When you were single, were people trying to hook you up?
Look, I think I made it very clear to people that I don't appreciate being hooked up because people, no one knows you like you know you. So I mean, my mom tried it, didn't work. My friends tried it, didn't work. And at some point I was like, enough is enough.
Yeah.
I'll figure this thing out. I think it comes from a couple of places. Top of mind for me, and I find it quite humorous, is that for some people in relationships, it's almost like a defense mechanism. It's like, you are a threat to my happiness, a threat to my relationship, so let's hook you up quickly.
Yeah.
Get you out the picture just in case Tom here was having any ideas.
Yeah.
So that's the one aspect of it. Like the second thing is, I'm happy, so I want you to be happy too, but we don't really know if you really are happy.
Yes.
You're just trying to get me hooked up so that we can do couple stuff together.
Yes.
It fits nicely in your Sunday lunches and brunches and everything, but in my life, it may not necessarily work.
That's what Dorothy was speaking about, the coupled up weddings. Listen, on the way, can one have a successful divorce? Send us your 20-second WhatsApp voice notes to give us your thoughts on this. Then be sure to join us later as author Martin Manamela comes on board. Dorothy and Kofi are not going anywhere. I stumbled there. And welcome back to Real Talk on SABC 3. Being part of a couple may look picture perfect from the outside, but as we've all experienced in life, relationships can go through a predictive life cycle. You know, the honeymoon phase, then followed by the testy times. Just as you have people who are secure and happy to be single, you do also find people who are codependent and are terrified of being alone. Where does one draw the line and choose being single over a miserable relationship that is no longer healthy for them? We're still with relationship coach Kofi Ofori-Boateng, as well as writer Dorothy Black. Now, you once wrote an article as well, where you said, I think that the title was, "Why would you date you?" Oh no,
yes,
would you date you? Please unpack that.
Well, so I'd gone on to doing dating profiles, and that's a really great way to figure out your boundaries with people and all that sort of stuff. And I'd sort of been doing my dating profile, and I was going like, if I'm 100% honest, would I be somebody I'd want to date? You know, like I am at the worst time, and I'm kind of controlly and codependent and temperamental, and I will find fault with you when I can and if I want to. And, you know, these are not really qualities that make for great relationships. And so I had to kind of look at, well, would I date me? And then the question is, when you go, I want this, that, the next thing, in a person, well, do you have those qualities? Are you the person you would want to go out with?
Yeah.
And I think that's a good way to start. I always tell people, if you want to find somebody, what are your wants, what are your needs, and are you the person you would date?
So you're saying that you were controlling and you're codependent. So do you feel that...
I was.
Yeah, exactly, you
and
were.
then therapy.
Okay. Because this is my thing, then what is the road to not being controlling and not being codependent?
I think it's different for everybody, but certainly for me, I had to go through a long sort of unpacking and finding out where it came from, and then practicing. Practice. You always have to practice your boundaries. You always have to practice new relating. When you learn new relationship skills, you always have to practice them. You practice them with your friends, you practice them at work, you practice them ultimately then with your partner and with your family.
And this is why, you know, when we do this, we find ourselves that we're repetitive, but, you know, you and I were here a month ago. If we could just repeat everything we said a month ago, I wouldn't mind, because people constantly need to be hearing this. What's the road, Kofi, to not being jealous? I got a letter on Facebook from someone who was like, when you guys have a relationship, show again. I know I am a jealous person. I'm a guy and I'm jealous, and I know that it is what's destroyed all of my relationships. Help me.
All right. I think straight off the bat, we just need to break down the difference between envy and jealousy.
Yeah.
Jealousy is, okay, envy is when someone has something you don't have and you want it. Jealousy is when this person is already with you, or you have what you want and you don't want anyone else to have access to it. That's the thing. Now, I always say that a little bit of jealousy is a good thing. What we're talking about over here is possessiveness and possibly over-possessiveness. He is looking at this person almost like a possession. I'm guessing, because I haven't really read the letter. And he's trying to, I'm guessing, trying to shield this person from all contact.
He says they've been together for 6 months, and he flipped his lid because she had to go away on a work trip for 3 days.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's not jealousy. That's a little scary, right there. A lot scary, actually.
But is it scary when he is admitting it?
Look, it's a good thing he's admitting it, because like that's the first step.
Yeah.
So now, what are you going to do after admitting it? Are you going to go seek help? Are you going to go talk to someone? Are you going to talk to your partner? Let her know what it is. Let her know what triggers you. Let her know why it triggers you. Have that conversation, and let her try and also find out.
Can I step in there for a second? Because I've had a letter like that before. And the question is, I take a small issue with like finding out, telling her what triggers you. Because for me, jealousy and over-possessiveness has nothing to do with the other person. Ultimately, it's always going to be your insecurities around something that is being maybe triggered by a reminder of what that person is doing.
But now, I'm speaking from a personal and Anele point when I say, when I had a boyfriend who was jealous like that, I misinterpreted it as love.
As caring.
Do you know what I'm saying? So you see what I'm saying? So what he's saying about having the honest conversations with him, because if it was me in that relationship and he's upset that I'm going away on a work trip, Anele long ago would be like, this is amazing, oh my word, he loves me. You know what I'm saying? So you have to have those conversations and those triggers, because surely him being jealous is a trigger of love flags for me.
Sure, except that if people hear the word trigger, they expect you then to not be triggering.
Not necessarily. Like that boils down to how the other person interprets it. Look, if I tell you what triggers me, I have to tell you what caused me to get triggered by that. I'm taking you into my past. So I'm letting you know that in these kinds of situations, this can happen.
Taking responsibility.
You're taking responsibility.
I think the word trigger makes it sound, we need to find another word, Kofi, you and me. The word trigger makes it sound like I am giving you all responsibility to the fact that I am a jealous monster. Am I?
Not really. Look, if I'm saying this is it, then even when, should it flare up again? You can tell me, but you're doing it again. You know what I'm saying? So like, that's not me putting it on my partner, because now I'm telling my partner that when I display those kinds of behaviors, please help me to fix myself by sometimes reminding me that, look, you're doing it again. Okay, let me check myself. Because remember, I started by saying that you also need to go see someone, talk to someone, get help. And as you get help, you need to work through it with your partner. So if you're 100% honest and you put everything out there, she can help you work through it as well. So jealousy
can be healed.
If you take responsibility for it.
If you take responsibility
if you don't put it on the other person and you understand, like, here's my thing, this is what I need to, that I need to fix.
Okay, we've got a voice note. I think y'all are both going to want to answer this one. Roll it.
Hi, Anele, it's Bongi. Just wanted to ask your guests, how much of the wanting to get hooked up or wanting to be in a relationship or out of it is driven by biology, is driven by hormones, is driven by sort of nature?
Dot spot. Hormones, your field.
Listen, I think there's a joke that goes around that when you stop seeing someone, you go through like a withdrawal phase, because you're not getting your oxytocin hits, you're not getting your happy endorphins. There's a whole bunch of like happy chemicals that your body is no longer producing. You know, you can orgasm, you get the same sort of stuff, but it's a bit different. And they found that it is different when you're with somebody that you love. So does that then lead you on to want to be with other people? Absolutely. I think we're whole people. We have biology, emotions, mental state, and I think all of that will drive a need to be with someone physically, emotionally, intimately. I don't think as social creatures we're meant to be by ourselves. Even if it's just living with other people or having lots of friends or something. So I think there is a certain biological drive to be with someone and to, it's the triggers in like choosing the right people.
Okay. So not every biological drive is the right one.
No, well, you don't have to be mindless from it. It'll drive you. You can decide whether yes or no.
Kofi, wrap it up for us.
Well, for me, the biological imperative speaks more to mating. And then when it comes to relating, that's a bit more cerebral, that's a bit more emotional, that's a bit more spiritual. So I think the other thing is also we can be creatures of habit. So if you have a habit of being with someone, you might think it's a relationship. It's not necessarily a relationship. You're just with this person. It could be a situationship. It could be a weekend buddy, whatever it is. But you just want that connection. You're addicted to that connection. You have a habit of being connected to someone at any given time, and you just miss out on that and want to get back into that. But if you approach it from a more cerebral, conscious, deliberate perspective, where you understand what you want, not just physically, but on the other levels as well, then you can make a more informed and more quality decision as well.
All right, we'll wrap it up there. Dot, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You coming back.
Fantastic.
Yeah, you're
Anytime.
definitely coming back. Dorothy Black, thank you so much for joining us. So listen, is longevity the only indicator of a successful marriage? Think about that question. Martin Manamela has the answer and a whole lot more. Kofi will be joining us after the break as well. Come back. And welcome back to Real Talk on SABC 3. The idea of enjoying happy ever after in marital bliss has become less of a reality and more of a fantasy. Well, at least that's what the latest data released by Stats SA in 2017 suggests. South Africa saw a 26% drop in civil marriages between 2008 and 2015. Customary marriages nosedived by 17% between 2007 and 2015. By contrast, the number of marriages ending in divorce went up by 20.4%. And predictions are that our divorce rates will continue to go up over the next decade. Adding his voice to this conversation is author of several books, including Are You Married or Buried? Martin Manamela, welcome to this discussion.
Yes, ma'am. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you and I are gonna talk. So you say that marriages do not end wrong, they start wrong.
Oh, yes. They start wrong.
Okay.
Look, we can never talk about marriage until we talk about love. But when we talk about love, do we understand what love is? Because many a times we make mistakes, right? For example, I'm a man, I come to you and I say, I love you, but all I saw was your physique. So I'm interested in the physical part of Anele, so I'm lusting after you. So I'm saying to you, I love you, but that's Eros love. That's all I want from you, all right? But you responding to the love that is inside of you, not the love that I have for you.
Yeah.
So you get excited because of what you've been waiting for, the love that you've been waiting for. So we are already not on the same wavelength.
How do we get on the same wavelength?
You need to ask questions. Okay. As a man,
why do you love me?
No. You need to ask. Okay, when a man comes to you, ladies need to stop being excited. Oh, he loves me. Oh, I've been waiting.
Oh no,
you
guys,
need to stop.
I know. Kofi, what are you nodding your head at?
I have to agree with the man.
We need to stop being excited.
You
Stop
need
being
to
excited.
because you sound. You know, desperation repels. You get too desperate, and I'm like, oh, okay, she's been waiting, so I can do whatever I want because she's too excited about me. Even if I'm not that quality, she's just too excited. And now look, when I come to you, when I say I love you, you need to say, okay, hold on, pause. Which love are you talking about? Now we're getting into a serious conversation. Which love?
How quick am I having that conversation with you?
Like immediately. Immediately.
That's desperate, though.
Yeah. No. You're trying to understand. Instead of you getting excited, you're trying to understand what is he talking about.
Okay.
So that you don't respond to him with what you have, which is something that he doesn't have.
Okay.
So now I'm talking about like game love. I'm talking about Eros love. I'm talking about logic love. You know, so there's so many loves that people respond to without knowing that they're responding. There's filial love. So which one are we talking about? So that at least we can start discussing from there.
Okay, so Kofi, off the statement that Martin made that marriages do not end wrong, they start wrong.
Yeah.
Is it possible for me to rectify that inside the marriage?
All right. So let's say, all right, I'll put it like this. I always advise people to have a vision for their marriage. What does a good marriage to you look like? Why are you getting married? What is the purpose of you getting with this person? Like I always preach, marriage is an institution. It's a legal institution. And in many ways,
Not a romantic one.
Not a romantic one. And in many ways, it's a wealth-creating vehicle. So if you're going to be creating wealth with this person, and you're very clear on that from the beginning, and wealth doesn't just speak to money.
Yes.
It speaks to your physical well-being, your emotional well-being,
Yes.
your mental well-being, spiritual well-being, holistic wellness. Then you're heading somewhere from the start together. Now, you enter into a marriage with a person who has very divergent views from yours about love and about marriage. And halfway into, maybe 6 months, a year down the line, you now say, you know what, actually, I realize we're not even going the same direction. I was going to Cape Town. I see you're going to Kroonstad. Please divert and walk with me. And he's like, no, but I want to go to Kroonstad because that's where everything that I'm working towards is. It can happen, but it doesn't always happen. It's too much of a gamble.
Yeah.
So be very clear from the onset what it is that you want with your partner and see if you're both on the same page and work towards that.
It can happen, but it's too much of a gamble.
Can I add one statement there?
Yes, please.
Don't get married for feelings, get married for purpose.
Okay, so there's a voice note, there's a few voice notes, many of which asking you guys to help them, decide in what to look for when you are looking for a marriage partner. Roll it.
Hi, Anele. Thanks for having such a good topic. I like it. My name is Steven. My question is, how can one know how to choose the right partner, especially as youth, when you're in a relationship with two girlfriends that you feel like they both love you? How do you get to know or choose the right one? Thank you.
With two girlfriends who said they both love you, how did you get to a point when two women were loving you?
Yeah.
Martin?
Well, look, the first thing is that you need to be in love with yourself first. How do you do that? Know exactly what you want in life, because so many people are going to love you. That's why he's confused, because a lot of people are going to love you. But now, you're not just going to be with any person who loves you, because then you're going to be married and still go around loving other people, because you respond to love.
Wow.
Do you understand?
Oh, wow, okay.
So you need to know exactly, this is what I want. So you need to have your own checklist and say, this is what I stand for. And of course, going back to the issue of now purpose, marriage, I'm not going to just get with anyone because I'm feeling good
so
towards
what Kofi
them.
was saying about, because, okay, now I want to amalgamate your guys' points here. You were saying don't get married for love, get married for purpose.
No, don't get married for feelings.
For feelings,
just because I'm feeling good.
Yeah, get married for purpose. And Kofi, am I right in assuming that that wealth you were talking about, and not money wealth, like health, mental, that is purpose? That
is purpose. Look, exactly like Martin was saying, eating tons of chocolate feels good. It's not necessarily good for you. Drinking lots of alcohol feels good. It's not necessarily good for you. So it's pretty much the same thing with marriage. He's talking about two women said they love me. At no point did he say that this is my dream, this is my vision, this is where I'm heading in life, and I have come across two women who seem to suit me and where I'm trying to go. He's not saying that. He's saying they both love me. What does that mean?
Okay. Next voice note, please.
Anele, hi Kofi, me and my friend really love you. Okay, the question is, in order to make a relationship work, what should we bring into the relationship, me and the guy, besides expecting love and sex?
Oh, wow, there we go, Kofi.
Okay, you're just gonna put it on me like that, huh? Okay, look, love and sex you can find, sex you can find anywhere. I always say, when a person says they love you, the appropriate response for me is, okay, we'll see. Because love should be shown. It's not something you say. It's something you do. It's something that you are. You are love, and you offer that love to someone else. Yeah. Someone else is love, and they offer love to you, and you choose whether to receive it or not. Now, when you go into that relationship and you say that I am love and I'm trying to offer you love, what does that look like to you? Does that mean that you're willing to bear with this person? You're willing to walk with this person? You're willing to work with this person? Are you willing to grow with this person and deal with everything that these things come with? Because it sounds good when I'm talking about it right now, but when you're actually in it, it's not so much. So love and sex, it has to be bigger than that.
Okay, so we're going to take a quick ad break. Martin, when we come back, the opening question to you that I want you to answer, can one have a successful divorce? And after that, I need you to answer for me, is longevity the only way we are rating whether a marriage was successful or not? We will be back after the break. And welcome back to Real Talk on SABC 3. The stage is yours. Joining Kofi Ofori-Boateng, our relationship expert. I know he doesn't like that word. Relationship coach. There we go. Is Martin Manamela, who's also pretty much blowing me away. That's why I want to ask this question. Can one have a successful divorce?
Oh, yeah.
What?
And that depends on what success is to you, because success differs from one person to the next.
Yeah.
So if I'm saying successful, is because I got out of it what I've been looking for.
Yeah.
All right. You know, I had one man say that you know, I'm a successful divorcee because every time I divorce, I get to keep the houses. So that's success for him.
Every time I do
he has divorced a couple of times. So
yeah.
he says, I'm a successful divorcee because every time I divorce, I get to keep the houses.
Oh, good Lord. Okay, so he's
so that's what success means to him.
Yeah.
However, going deeper on that, it will mean that, look, you have children, for example. If you have children and you make sure that the first thing that you cover and protect is the children, and that can go just healthy, let's do that. However, successful divorces is also dependent on the fact that we sit down before even there's lawyers, before we talk about family, before we talk about anybody else.
Yes.
It's just me and you and saying, okay, can we be grown up about this thing? Can we be matured about this? I want this out of this marriage and you want that. Can we agree on that? So before we can call anybody else. If we agree, then that's successful because we got out of it. Yes, it's going to be painful, but pain does not mean it's not successful. It's painful because we were together and now we are separating. Two lives are going now separate ways. Fine, but we got out of it what we negotiated for.
In the
That's
beginning.
Successful.
All right, so Kofi, is longevity the only indicator of a successful marriage?
No. Achieving the purpose that you got married for is, for me, the greatest indicator of a successful marriage.
Yeah.
So if you got together to build a family, and building a family means ensuring that the kids are fed, they're well educated,
yes.
They're taught proper values and morals and ethics, and they become contributing members of our society, then by all means, you know, that's something to work towards. But if you're just looking to rack up the years, I know a lot of people.
That's dangerous, hey? I know a couple that's like that. It's 7 years. You're like, yes, but you've been miserable.
But you're miserable.
Oh yeah, I mean that's very true. I mean I've been married for 17 now, and almost 7 years of that marriage, of that part was, it was hell. Hell ups and down. Hell in a sense that sometimes I wanted out. That's why I wrote the book. Are you married or buried? You know,
feel like you're
living
buried?
together apart, because most people live together apart. We in the same house, but we're not really together. Because you must remember one thing: when I put a ring on your finger, it might be a suffer ring. So you're gonna suffer long in this. So it's a shackle, like, you know what? It's a chain around.
It's a chain.
It's not on the finger though. It's, you know, just the whole life in J.
All right, so obviously we're taking voice notes, and we've got one from a lady. Guys, please can you have a listen to this and see if we can help her out?
Hi, Anele. I will be married 2 months tomorrow. I am wondering, will it be too soon to leave the marriage? Because my husband is currently over-possessive. When we're in a relationship, I translated all of that jealousy to being a sign of affection and love. But now, since we've been married, he has instructed me to not be friends with any man, not talk to any man unless it's work. If it's beyond that...
Okay, I think I was going to say if it's beyond that, she's not allowed to have any interaction with any man.
Yeah.
And I want to note that he says if it's professional, it's fine. But something tells me sooner or later, even that's gonna come into play. Martin, your advice to her?
That is already wrong. I mean, well, I can never advise a person and say it's time to divorce. Maybe it can be worked out, but because you need to understand one thing, because these things don't just start in the marriage. There should have been hazards here and there before they got married.
But she says she interpreted it as love.
Yeah, that's the thing. Now, remember this. When you are in love with someone, you are just not in love with an individual. You are in love with an incorporated person. There's beliefs, there's values, there's visions, there's all of these things.
There's the past.
There's the past, which has developed a lot of insecurity in him. So you're dealing with insecurity right here. Clear. That's insecurity. So now, can he be helped? If he can get help, then good. But if he's not going to get help, then it means you have to give up your whole life to live the kind of life that he wants. So you're already dead. You are living in a cemetery in your marriage.
You are buried.
You are buried. You are not married, you are buried, yeah.
I agree with what Martin is saying. I also believe that there are two sides to every story. So in as much as, on the one hand, she has admitted that she initially saw it as a sign of affection, I also have to ask, what has she done that has triggered, wrong word. Okay.
You're not gonna fight.
Yeah, okay. That has caused him to behave this way. Look, this is why earlier I was talking about when someone says I love you, the appropriate answer is we'll see, because your actions are gonna show it. Now, for some people, they think once the ring gets slipped on and the vows get exchanged, now they can drop the mask and be who they want to be. If love is not continued in the relationship in the same way and better in the months, years that follow, then we have an issue. Like Martin said, it does not necessarily mean that she should divorce, but if this is going to lead to more pain, more heartbreak, it could go from emotional to physical very quickly if she transgresses, on what he's saying. So she needs to be very, I think, cautious how she approaches this whole thing.
Wow, guys, now people must be cautious in their marriages.
She has to be, because I mean, if you see, I think we need to call a spade a spade.
Please.
That kind of behavior scares me. As a man, if my wife, after 2 months of marriage, came to me and told me, I expect you to start cutting ties with certain people on this basis, I'd be concerned, because that could affect my livelihood. That could affect my reputation.
Oh, just my life, my smiles, my laughs.
Or just my peace. So already that's an issue. Now, that's not love. That is not love. Because you should be helping me grow in a way where I can still relate to people, but maintain healthy boundaries. If you're not showing me how that can be done, then, there's a problem. And she also needs to take a step back and look at what she's been allowing.
All right, sadly, we're out of time with Kofi Ofori-Boateng as well as Martin Manamela. His book is Are You Married or Are You Buried? Make sure you grab it. It's almost time for us to wrap up our conversation. After the break, Dr. Babalwa Funda is going to help us answer, amongst other things, why a lot of people want to make other people's sex lives their business, especially if you're single. She joins us next. Welcome back to Real Talk right here on SABC3, where the stage is yours. Throughout the past hour, we've looked at the ups and downs of single life and had some serious conversations about divorce. A lot of literature has been made available about the psychology of healthy sex lives, and I'm delighted to welcome to the conversation sexologist Dr. Babalwa Funda Kamaboza, who believes that sex is for us to enjoy. Now, I do urge for parental guidance during this segment. If you are confused about something, your child, please make sure that you're asking your parents. Don't go ask your friends or Google. Ask your parents. Trust me, you will find that they'll be more than happy to answer your questions. Babalwa, now here's my question. Can a relationship survive without sex?
Of course, a relationship can survive without sex, depending on whether you have communicated what is it that exactly that you are looking for. Because we need to remember that there's a lot of segments when you talk of relationships. So what is important is knowing why do you get into that relationship, and if it is going to have sex, when is the right time, and that you are all agreeable.
Okay. So let's say we start out having a lot of sex and then we don't any longer. How am I broaching that discussion?
Of course, you know what? Sex is a journey that starts the day you are born until the day you die. And it has its segments. And so even in a relationship when you have started having sex, I think what we miss is the fact that we never communicate. I always say to people, when you start having a sexual relationship with anybody, you have to determine where you are going with it. Just like any other kind of relationship, sex must have its own space in a relationship where you say, this is where we're at, this is our strategy, these are the things that we want to achieve when it comes to our sexual relationship. And so once you've missed that, so you are bound to miss all the boundaries that you have and other stages that you have to go through. Because we need to remember that sex does not live in a vacuum. It lives in other things that you do with and have in that relationship. So it's not a standalone thing. So it does get affected by other things. For instance, the one that is common that you hear all the time, women would be saying, when we started, we did not have responsibilities. Now there's children. Now there's this. Now I get tired. And of course, there's a lot of other things. Once the relationship gets to a normal stage, then or a normal phase, then it starts having its own challenges. And so your sex will suffer, which is why then you always have to go back to the drawing board. Sex must have a space in a relationship. Even where you say, okay, when now things starts getting tough and there's other responsibilities, maybe let's have dates. Either it's once a week or once a month, depending on how your schedule looks like. But it has to have its space within the relationship and it must not be left out.
You know, we are conditioned to believe that men and women approach sex different psychologically. Is this true? And when we're having these conversations, is this something that we should be aware of?
Of course, this is something that you should be aware of. Yes, it is partly true and partly not true. Because there's a lot of myths that have been brought up to say women think of sex or women think less of sex and women do this, men do that. No, I think until you have set as a person, because it starts with you as a person to say, this is me as a sexual being, because as I've said, you start from the day you die until the day you're born, until the day you die. As a sexual being, this is how I feel now. This is what I would like to achieve in my sexual encounters with my partner. And then your partner also brings the same to say, this is where I am at, and this is what I would like to achieve. And so once you have reached that point, then you are able to look and say, okay, we've started here, we are here now, and we are able to achieve this. Okay, we are unable to achieve this. What is it that has gone wrong? Or what is it that has happened? Because you need to remember, one of the phases or one of the things that could do, which a normal part of life, you find that most of the time after children, after you've had a child, then things change a little bit. Even the body might change. The response might not be the same. You might not be feeling good. You might have gained weight. You might be feeling a little bit of pain here and there, a little bit of uncomfortability, change of hormones. So these are the things that then you have to settle and look at and say, how do we regroup again and make sure that we go back to where we were, or even better. So we need to be ready.
Perhaps also realizing that it's okay to not go back to what we were and just create a new reality.
Definitely, you need to create a new reality. You see, like Kofi had said initially, one thing that we miss about sex is not just a physical issue. One of the biggest things that you need when we talk of sex, the biggest organ is the brain. So sex is physical, it is intellectual, it is emotional, and it is also spiritual. So in your growing, which is why then you have to determine where you are and then say, from here, this is where I'm going. When you have a hurdle and say, okay, let's regroup. This is the kind of hurdle that we have. How do we resolve this? Because things will happen. Today I have a high libido. The following day I don't have it. It might be a short-term thing. It might be a long-term thing. Today, this is what is happening. The following day your partner is diagnosed with diabetes. How do you overcome those things? And it is true communication and falling in love with your body. You see, earlier you touched on something that was very important. How do you fall in love with yourself? Because you need to remember, even before we start saying, let's enjoy sex, does your partner even know what it means for you to enjoy sex? And they will only learn from you. Do you even know what is happening in your body? Because a lot of us, especially females, we seem to be lost in our own bodies. And you expect this person who is my brother or my sister, or even my sister, because partners doesn't really, that just male, female. Well, we are living in a diverse society. But you are the one that must take your partner by your hand to say, if you touch here, this is what happens. If you touch here, this is what happens.
Speaking of saying we're living in a diverse society, we've got a voice note. Please, can you roll that last one for us?
Hi, Anele. This is Francisca. I just wanted to know how I can nicely say to people mind their own business about my sex life, especially because I am lesbian. They always want to know how we do it and how we get it on. How do I tell people to back off nicely?
Thank you so much. That's a very powerful question, which is something that all people that are outside what is called a normal relationship, which does not exist, always think of. When we talk of love and relationship, I always say to people, we do not fall in love with the vaginas. We do not fall in love with the penis. When we see somebody and we say we love them, it's an attraction that sometimes we cannot even define what it is, but you get attracted to energy. It doesn't matter where it lives. It might live in somebody who lives in a vagina, in a body with a vagina. It might live in somebody who lives with a penis. But now, because this is a new transformation and evolution, so we do find people that any time when they think of a relationship, they jump into saying, how do you have sex?
Yeah.
And that is not the point. So this is where we then educate people to say, you need to understand that falling in love and attraction is not about sexes. It's not about being male or female, but it's about falling in love with somebody. And once you fall in love with somebody, even those that are curious to find out what happens, you will know that day.
Thank you so much, Babala. You were absolutely enlightening. Thank you so much to all my guests, Kofi Ofori-Boateng, Dorothy Black, Martin Manamela, as well as Dr. Babalwa Funda. This has been a real talk. I love what? Love is intellectual. Well, sex is intellectual. That's the one I'm taking away today. Listen, we'll be back with you tomorrow where we welcome sporting twins Odwa and Akona Ndungane onto the show. It's going to be a family affair. We'll check you out tomorrow at 6 p.m. Isitingo is up next. Thanks for watching.